Yeah, all right. So, we get this question a lot. Sounds, how do you get them? So today is going to be like Hendrix, Stevie Ray, Robin Trower, how to get those old killer blues, rock, sounds all together. So, click the links below. Marty's always got something killer for you down there. You will not be bummed you clicked on it. Let's just put it that way. So what we're also going to do is go over maybe some of the equipment, different options. A lot of you say you can't afford a lot of stuff, so we'll give some cheaper. Those of you who can afford stuff, we'll give you the fast track to the killer tone. See what we come up with. All right, let's get in for a closer look. All right, so in the Hendrix, Trower, Stevie Ray Vaughan thing, Hendrix and Trower especially both predominantly used Marshalls for a long time. Here and there is other amps speckled in there, but some sort of a plexi or, something like that, right? So this amp right here is a divided by 13 BTR23. It has different power tubes than what those guys would normally play out of, but it has KT88s, which are a really awesome EL34-like tube, but they're just a little smoother and, I don't know, they're awesome. But for that sound, as with this amp, it's kind of Marshall based, and from there, it's some sort of device or whatever to get the gain. Now, a lot of times when you hear, Marshall plexi, it's not a stock Marshall plexi. 9 times out of 10 back in the day, somebody messed with their amp, made it the way they liked it, and the whole deal. So don't run out and get, an old Marshall plexi and think it's going to sound just like Hendrix. I've heard a million of them, and for one, they all sound different. And number two, it's very rare that one of them is going to sound like Hendrix, right? So many things go into it, whether it's a pedal or certain mods to de-emphasize or accentuate certain frequencies in the amp, right? So a Marshall format amp will get you there. Fender also as well, something like a 6V6. They break up real nice too, real smooth, cool sounding tube. They're in a lot of Fenders. A closed back cabinet will help a lot. Both those guys, Trower and Hendrix, played closed back Marshall cabinets, as did Stevie Ray Vaughan, but he mixed a whole bunch of amps together. So he had, everything from Marshall Majors to Vibroverbs to all these amps at one time, Dumbles being recorded. So another thing you have to remember in the sound of these guys is a lot of stuff is done in the studio to get amps and things like that, how you hit the preamp of the board that the mic's running through or where you place the mics in the room. All these things matter on the overall sound. So let's just pretend we got a low budget. We don't have a multi-million-dollar studio to get a Hendrix tune or sound or whatever. So Marshall or Fender amp will get you there. Set it for a little bit of a breakup, something like a that kind of a sound. You can see on mine the gain's up a little bit. This amp isn't super distorted, but the preamp's up pretty good. The master volume's super low, so it's a very feasible tune. That's another thing that's great to look for in newer amps and stuff. A lot of them have master volumes, which can be great if you just want to learn songs off YouTube and jam in your bedroom. But if you need to get out into a club, you're good to go, right? So you just turn up that master volume. This amp is only 23 watts, and trust me out there, it's all you need. You know, you're gonna get sound guys all up in your junk complaining that you're too loud. So 20 to 40 watts should be about what you need to play pretty much any club live, right? I got to watch the McCartney guys do their thing, and they both are playing out of 15 watt amps. So they were for a long time. This amp right here actually was designed for one of the guys in McCartney. So it's called a BTR. His name is Brian Ray, right? And he's in McCartney. Again, stadiums, 20 watts. So doesn't got to be loud like back in the day when they didn't have an awesome PA pumping it through, right? We can be heard with microphones, blah, blah, blah. So let's get on to the pedals. Okay, so we got our basic clean tone, or a little bit of dirt. Now I'm playing, and Hendrix and Trower and Stevie Ray Vaughan play a lot on their neck pickups on the guitar. I'll show you that in just a second too, but here's some ideas you can have with the pedal. All of those guys have a wah-wah pedal. That's a full tone. There's Crybabies, there's Voxes, another great company is RMC, there's Morley. You know, it's just kind of whatever your personal preference is. I really like this full tone. They have, this one's just the normal one. They also have one called a Clyde Deluxe, which gives you kind of those different sounds in one pedal, like kind of like a Vox and a Crybaby and everything all in one, right? Really cool pedal, really durable. I've had this thing for years, no problems whatsoever. Really, really like that wah. But, you know, I've had a Crybaby and stuff too, and they work great. So there's that. Okay, so pedals play a huge role in getting a Hendrix, Trower, or Stevie Ray Vaughan sound. Stevie Ray Vaughan thing is going to be a more of a mid-range emphasis, like a Tube Screamer, although he did use later on in the career fuzz faces, more stuff in that realm, you know, thicker sound, blah, blah, blah. Tube Screamers are great, real heavy on the mid-range emphasis. So what I'm going to do a little later on when I show you the Stevie Ray Vaughan thing is I'm going to use this Barber LTD, and it's going to kind of get us a little more closer to that tone. So right now I'm going to stick on Hendrix and Trower. So, you know, I've showed everybody the pedal board before. I'm kind of a boutique-y pedal guy. There's obviously a million pedals by Boss, DOD, Ibanez, all these companies with great pedals. For really affordable prices. You know, never underestimate YouTube, or not YouTube, silly me, like Craigslist or eBay or something like that to get, you know, pedals for a great price. Then, you know, Boss and a lot of these pedals, they're pretty much indestructible. So unless it's, you know, completely scarred up, chances are you'll be fine buying used pedals. So for the Hendrix thing, what I'm going to do is, a lot of times, like in his cleaner songs, he had a fuzz on. Now, I don't have a fuzz. I'll simulate it by putting two pedals together. This is a boost and this is a distortion pedal. But a lot of the tones you hear with Hendrix are the amp into a like fuzz device of some kind, right? One of the first fuzzes out there was from Jimmy. And rolling back your guitar's volume, right? So, there we go. We got a guitar. I don't have my volume knob right here, it's right here. But on a Strat, your volume knob's right here. 9 times out of 10, Hendrix gets a lot of his sounds by really manipulating volume, tone, and pickups. You'll always see him. I highly recommend watching live footage of him, always messing around with pickup selectors and, you know, volume and whatever. So a lot of times he had the fuzz just going. So sometimes later in the career, had an Echoplex, so I'm going to use this Strymon Timeline for a delay. You know, Boss, all these other pedals, they work great. I had a DD5 or DD3 or whatever for like 20 years. Awesome pedal. You can get those for like $50 used, right? So, anyways, let's go on to a sound. So, say we're doing like a Watchtower sort of thing. Right? Typical tone. So what I'm going to do is, that sounds good, but I'm going to boost it a little bit. Right? Now that's going to work good once I get into a lead. So what I can do is, that's with my volume on guitar all the way up. You roll it back a little bit. Right? Roll more. Right, and you got a pretty good clean sound. So then when you get into the more, you know, sort of thing, even into the leads, you can just turn up your volume knob. Now for something like a Voodoo Child, you know, you're going to need a lot of gain. He has a fuzz, so you can get away simulating a fuzz with a distortion pedal and a boost. Not going to be quite the same, but it'll get you close. And then a wah pedal. Right, so what I did there is I just combined the two pedals. It gives me a lot of gain. One thing that you'll want to be careful of is as soon as you stop playing, you're going to have a lot of noise. So roll down your guitar's volume knob. That's going to sound a lot of the sound. That's going to solve a lot of the hum problems on a stage or whatever. So there's also the Line 6 and all these other amps or simulators. If you're just playing at home in a bedroom, go get something like that for fun. If you have no aspirations of ever hitting the stage or whatever, go out and just buy something that does everything in one, and you'll be able to get close, right? So, another little thing. Now, another sound for Hendrix, and what I'm doing here works as well for Trower, right? So, Trower uses an OCD, another full tone pedal like this one, and he uses this wah. But he has his own Robin Trower full tone pedal that's based off their OCD pedal. So that into a front of a Marshall will get you a wicked Trower tone, right? And then they both use some sort of a vibe device, which is the or for the Trower. Right, so it's, you know, a nice, you know, it will do Hendrix and it does Trower great. You know, songs like Machine Gun, little parts of Little Wing, you know, when he does the, let's see, where... Right, kicks on a Univibe. All sorts of spots with Hendrix. Great pedal. You can tweak up the intensity and the speed and get a real warbly. Right, get the intensity going. Now, why that's not a Univibe pedal doing that, what's cool is a Univibe is very close to a chorus / phaser. So, you know, a lot of times I'll have a chorus on my board, but sometimes I can get away with just this pedal. And what's cool about this Microvibe, great price, great pedal. You know, check them out. They're awesome. Okay, so the Microvibe, Voodoo Labs, the best one I've ever heard is a Megavibe, super expensive. If you can afford one, money's not an object, buy one of those. They're the best sounding Univibe I've ever heard, and I've heard them all. So that's just my opinion though. But this is a great pedal, not too expensive, like $150, really great. Maybe a little cheaper than that on, you know, online. So it's a cool phasey. Awesome. So you can, you know, turn the speed down, get the intensity up. Alright, go the other way, turn the into. Right, so that'll get you pretty much there. It's some kind of a delay for like the Red House sort of thing when it's more back in the day when it's right. You want a good slap back. Whatever it does, right? So echo of some kind. You can turn the effect level of the pedal up about halfway. Set it for like 300 milliseconds. Back in the day, they had a Echoplex pedal that didn't have a super long repeat time. It was an actual tape that recorded the actual notes, so you get a really warm, killer sound out of it. Lots of players back in the day heavily relied on the Echoplex. Hendrix, Page, Van Halen. All these guys got amazing tones, and if you ever get a chance to play one, really amazing unit. So, anyways, that should get you there. Some sort of delay, a wah, a univibe pedal of sorts, either a fuzz. You can get the round ones. What are they called? Fuzz face. Love pedal makes a great one. The people that I said made the great Mega Vibe pedal. They make one called the Gypsy Fuzz that is incredible, right? These Voodoo Lab guys make really great inexpensive pedals. They have fuzzes. They have a very cool TS9 or Tube Screamer kind of pedal called the Sparkle Drive. Really cool, great choruses. Just really highly recommend those people as well. And they have really awesome power supplies too. They power all the pedals. So that's a good one-stop shop company. If you don't want to spend $1 bazillion and get pretty much everything you need, Voodoo Labs is a great company. So that should cover you in the Trower Hendrix department. One other thing I do want to mention is compressors. People don't really use compressors very often, and the interesting thing about a compressor is a compressor can almost act as a distortion pedal too, right? So I got So it's a really great pedal, almost like a boost, and what a compressor will do too is for the notes that don't ring out quite as loud, they'll boost the volume, and you can set a cap on how loud or how much signal you want to go through on the notes that are perceived to be the loudest ones. So it really kind of gives you a range of where you want the note dynamics to be. Really cool. They can also add sustain for clean parts. If you're into country music, mandatory, right? You got to have a compressor. All the guys that do country, you're going to see a compressor on their board. This compressor, Wampler, love this company too. Really awesome. The boost, obviously, this is one of my favorite pedals ever made. It's a divided by 13 lift pedal. Really awesome for the Hendrix thing. If you got a great Marshall and just want a boost pedal, this is killer. Does not color the tone at all. Not unreasonably priced, and will get just ripping amounts of gain too if you want. So it'll take you anywhere you need to go. I use this pedal more than anything. So let's do a little Stevie Ray Vaughan real quick and get to this. Alright, so for the Stevie Ray Vaughan thing, I'm going to switch amps. This is a divided by 13 915. I can't tell you. The two amps that I use, they're my favorite amps that I've ever owned. Hands down, not even close, right? So that's just my thing, but what's great about this amp too is it has two sets of power tubes, so you can do EL84, which is great for anything from Beatles to country music, but we're going to be on the 6v6 setting like I was telling you before, just to help me get that Stevie Ray Vaughan thing a little bit. What I'm going to do is I got it set on the 6v6, and then it just sounds like... right? Now a lot of the Stevie Ray Vaughan is going to be this pickup, right? The front pickup. He switches pickups a lot. Watch him while he's soloing. You'll always see him do this sort of thing, flipping from the back to the front. The Lenny thing, kind of this middle, or not middle, but the second to the middle, so in between the front and the middle position. Right, that sort of thing. Now the amp is set super low, so I don't want to blow up my microphone here, so it's not cranking. But what I want to say is I switched pedals on the board, so let's see what we got going on. Okay, so as I said, I don't have a tube screamer. This Boss Super Overdrive pedal, great pedal. That'll kind of get you there. Don't set the gain up too loud. You know, a lot of the sound is from the amp. He played really loud, so a lot of that is from the tube distortion from turning up the amp. That's another great thing about the amp over here that I was playing out of, is it's only 9 watts in that setting. I mean, it's really loud, don't get me wrong. I mean, neighbors will definitely get upset with you, but you can get that back-end distortion from cranking a lower wattage amp up. So lots of great amps, you know, deluxe, reverb, all these sort of amps are great. Another cool thing about those kind of amps too, they have reverb, which a lot of times Stevie Ray Vaughan will use just a little bit in there for a little hair, right? So this pedal is, you know, not a whole lot of people use it, but it is fantastic. Definitely one of my most favorite pedals I've ever had in my life. So what's cool is you can flip the pedal over and it has controls for, I think, presence and bass and stuff like that on the inside. This is kind of a spin-off of what they call the direct drive, which is more of a gain pedal. And this is the low gain version of it. It's called a Barber LTD SR. If you can get one of these pedals, you will not be bummed. Super, super, super good pedal. I think they're only like $130 or something like that. So you can find them used, you know, $80, $90. So anyways, so we got the... So I'm going to set a little more mids in there, right? Switch into the neck pickup. That was that second position. Right? Not a whole lot of gain. You can turn up the gain a little bit if you're going to do, you know, a little more Texas flood. Right? So same thing. Pickups, volume, always switching around. Watch Live at the El Macombo back in the day, you know, before he made it super big. Just a phenomenal little snapshot of him live. Highly recommend it. Just really cool. But you can really watch him messing with all of his switches, and that's one of the thing I would do most. You don't oftentimes see people's pedal boards, you know, in a live situation on film. But what you will see is how they mess with their guitar and how they manipulate their guitar to get different sounds. So it's not always about this. Don't be concerned with getting a massive pedal board and think that that's going to do it for you. A lot of these guys only have 1, 2, 3 pedals tops, and it's how they manipulate everything else that'll get you the tone. So again, Stevie Ray Vaughan, you can set it clean and use some sort of a boost. I can roll my volume knob back. Turn up the amp a little bit now that I got my pedal off. Right, nice. Great clean tone that you can boost. Now again, keep the drive not too high. You know, you want it between like 12 o'clock and 9 o'clock, somewhere in there. Get you a great tone. So I hope this helps you out a little bit. I know it's kind of long-winded and a lot of explaining and not a lot of playing, but people always ask me, how do you get that sound, or how do you do this, or how do you do that? So this is kind of the little tutorial on that. The next thing I'm going to do is how to get a metal tone. You know, I like the 80s metal thing, so I'm going to kind of predominantly go in that direction, but I will show you the more modern as well. So thanks again for watching. Catch you next time.